I'm Olivia Chen, 28 years old. Standing behind the counter at Maple Street Diner, coffee pot in hand, I watched my brother Julian walk through the door with his usual smirk. He wore his expensive suit-like armor briefcase swinging as he approached. "You still work here," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I thought you had ambition, Liv. Guess some people are just born to serve." The entire lunch crowd went silent. Mrs. Patterson stopped mid-bite of her sandwich. Even the cook paused at the grill. My face burned with humiliation, but I forced a smile. "What can I get you, Julian?" He laughed, ordered black coffee, and dropped exact change on the counter. No tip, never a tip. As he left, throwing one last look of pity over his shoulder, something inside me shifted. The anger was white-hot, but beneath it was something colder, sharper. Determination. I had been planning this for months, but in that moment I knew I would see it through to the end. Julian had no idea that the diner he just mocked me in was about to become my empire. And he definitely had no idea that I was already the one pulling all the strings. The backroom door swung shut behind me. My hands shook as I set down the coffee pot. The hurt was real, cutting deep like it always did when Julian made me feel small. But this time felt different. This time I had a secret he couldn't even imagine. I pulled out my phone and opened the file I'd been studying for weeks. Purchase agreement, business license, bank statements. All in the name of a shell company I'd created 6 months ago. Maple Street Diner wasn't just where I worked anymore. As of 3 weeks ago, it was mine. The previous owner, Mr. Henderson, had been ready to retire. He'd watched me work every shift for 2 years, seen my dedication, my ideas for improvement. When I approached him with my savings and a business loan I'd quietly secured, he didn't hesitate. But I'd kept it a secret. The paperwork was processed through lawyers. My name appeared nowhere public. To everyone, including Julian, I was still just a waitress scraping by. I wiped my eyes and straightened my apron. The humiliation still stung, but underneath it was something stronger now. Purpose. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment with spreadsheets covering my kitchen table. Numbers had always made sense to me in a way words sometimes didn't. While Julian went to business school on my parents' money, I'd taken night classes at community college. Accounting, business management, marketing. Every dollar I earned went toward tuition or savings. My parents never understood. "Why waste money on classes when you could just work more hours?" my mother had said. Julian was worse. He'd actually laughed when I mentioned wanting to own a business someday. "You, a business owner? Liv, you can barely handle taking orders at a diner." That memory fueled me now. I reviewed my plans for the diner. New menu items, better suppliers, a social media presence. Small changes that wouldn't raise suspicion but would slowly transform the place. Mr. Henderson had run a decent operation, but it was stuck in 1985. I saw potential he'd stopped seeing years ago. My phone buzzed, a text from Julian. "Lunch was sad today. You should really consider doing something with your life." I stared at the message, then smiled. Just wait, I thought, just wait. Growing up, Julian and I had been close, or at least I thought we were. He was 2 years older, confident where I was quiet, bold where I was careful. Our parents favored him, obviously. He was their golden child, the one who would make them proud. I was the backup plan, the one they mentioned reluctantly at family gatherings. When Julian graduated high school, they threw a huge party. When I graduated with honors 2 years later, we had cake at home. When he got into business school, my father actually cried with pride. When I got a scholarship to community college, my mother said, "Well, at least you're doing something." The favoritism should have made us rivals, but for years I just accepted it. Julian was special. I was ordinary, that's how it was. The shift happened slowly. Julian's success made him cruel. Every achievement became a weapon to remind me of my place. He'd bring his business school friends home and introduce me as my sister who works at the diner. The emphasis on "works at the diner" always stung. By the time I was 25, we barely spoke unless he needed to remind me how much better his life was than mine. My first week as secret owner was terrifying. I showed up for my regular shifts, served coffee, took orders, cleaned tables. But during slow hours, I studied everything. The books were messier than I'd expected. Mr. Henderson had been coasting for years. Suppliers were overcharging. The menu hadn't changed in a decade. Employee morale was low. I started small. I called our food supplier and negotiated better rates, mentioning I was looking into options for the owner. I got a 15% discount. I introduced one new sandwich special, using ingredients we already had but combined differently. It sold out the first day. I deep cleaned the kitchen during a slow Tuesday afternoon. The cook Marcus watched me curiously. "You don't have to do all that," he said. "I know," I replied, scrubbing harder. "I just want it to be nice here." He nodded slowly. "Mr. Henderson never cared much about nice things." I met his eyes. "Well, things are going to change around here." I didn't tell him how much. Not yet. But I could see him thinking, wondering what I meant. The opportunity I'd been waiting for came from an unexpected place. A small commercial property 3 blocks away went up for sale. It was rundown, formerly a failed pizza place. But the location was perfect, right near the new office complex that had just opened. I drove past it on my way home from the diner, studying it. The bones were good. High ceilings, big windows, plenty of parking. If I could transform Maple Street Diner, I could replicate that success here. A second location would be the start of something bigger. A chain, a brand, but I had to be careful. I scheduled a viewing through my shell company, wearing my best business clothes instead of my diner uniform. The real estate agent didn't recognize me. "Great space for a restaurant," she said. "The previous tenant couldn't make it work, but the right concept could thrive here." I nodded, taking notes, already seeing the finished product in my mind. That night I ran the numbers. It would be tight. Very tight, but it is possible. I submitted an offer. 2 days later, it was accepted. I own 2 properties now. Julian still thought I couldn't manage my own life. Doubt crept in at 3 in the morning. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, doing math in my head. What if I was wrong? What if I was letting my anger at Julian push me into bad decisions? What if I failed spectacularly and proved him right? The weight of 2 properties, loans, responsibility pressed down on me. I thought about my parents' disappointment when they found out I dropped out of their idea of success. I thought about Julian's mocking voice. Born to serve. Was I crazy to think I could build something real? But then I remembered something Mr. Henderson had said when he sold me the diner. "Olivia, I've watched you work for 2 years. You care about this place more than I have in a decade. You notice things. You think about the customers, the food, the experience. That's what makes a good business owner. Not an MBA, not fancy connections, just genuine care and hard work." I held on to that. This wasn't just about proving Julian wrong anymore. It was about proving myself right, about building something I could be proud of, about showing that hard work and vision mattered more than privilege and arrogance. I started renovations on Maple Street Diner subtly. New paint in the bathroom, better lighting in the dining area, updated menu boards, small changes that improved the experience without drawing too much attention. Through my shell company, I hired a designer who freshened up the logo. Nothing dramatic, just cleaner, more modern. I had new menus printed with better descriptions and slightly higher prices that still felt reasonable. The first week with the changes, revenue increased 12%. Customers noticed. Mrs. Patterson said the place felt brighter somehow. Marcus, the cook, got new equipment. Nothing fancy, but sharp knives and a reliable grill made his job easier. I scheduled repairs for the constantly dripping sink. I added a daily soup special. Meanwhile, Julian continued his visits. He'd stop by once a week, always in his suit, always making sure people saw him being charitable to his poor waitress sister. "Still here," he'd say, looking around like the diner was a prison. "You know, my firm is hearing assistance. I could put it into words." "I'm fine, Julian," I'd reply, refilling his coffee. "This works for me." He'd shake his head sadly. "If you say so." Marcus cornered me one evening after closing. The diner was empty, chairs up on tables. I was reconciling the register. "Can I ask you something?" he said. I looked up. Marcus was 50, had worked at the diner for 8 years. He was reliable, skilled, and underpaid. "Of course." "What's going on here?" His eyes were curious, not accusatory. "The new equipment, the changes, the way you're running things lately. Henderson never cared about any of that." I considered lying. But I needed allies. Carefully, I needed allies. "Can you keep a secret?" His eyebrows raised. "Always. I bought the diner 3 weeks ago, but I'm not telling anyone yet." His face went through several expressions. Shock, confusion, then a slow smile. "You're the owner." "I am." "Does your brother know?" I laughed. "Definitely not." Marcus's grin widened. "Oh, this is going to be good." From that day, Marcus became my secret partner in transformation. He suggested menu items. He trained staff. He helped me see the business from his perspective. Having someone know the truth felt like breathing after holding my breath underwater. The small changes added up. Within a month, Maple Street Diner was serving 20% more customers. Word spread about the new management. People didn't know that new management was me. They just knew something had changed for the better. I introduced a loyalty card. Buy 9 coffees, get the 10th free. Simple, but customers loved it. I started a Facebook page and Instagram account, posting photos of daily specials. Young people from the new office complex started coming in. I hired a part-time server to handle lunch rush. I created a takeout system that actually worked. Revenue climbed. I was exhausted, working both as owner behind the scenes and employee in front of customers. But every night I reviewed the numbers and felt pride swelling in my chest. Julian stopped by on a Wednesday. The place was packed, every table full. He had to wait for a seat. When he finally got to the counter, he looked annoyed. "You're popular today," he said. "We've been making some improvements," I said carefully. "People are noticing." He glanced around dismissively. "Still just a diner, though. Have you ever thought about real work?" I smiled. "This feels pretty real to me." Julian's girlfriend, Stephanie, came with him the next time. She was everything I wasn't: polished, confidence, wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly rent. "This is cute," she said, looking around the diner like it was a museum exhibit. "Very retro." "Thanks," I said, handing them menus. Julian smirked. "Liv's been working here forever, probably knows the menu by heart." "Actually, we just updated it," I said. "Lots of new items." Stephanie ordered the avocado toast I'd added last week. Julian got his usual burger. While they ate, I heard him talking. "Anyone can run a diner," he said. "It's not exactly complicated. You make food, people eat it. No strategy, no real business planning." Stephanie nodded, but I saw her glance at me. Something in her expression was sympathetic. When they left, she left a $20 tip on a $15 check. Julian left exact change. As I pocketed Stephanie's tip, I thought about how Julian had no idea what went into running a restaurant. The inventory, the staff management, the food costs, the regulations, but I didn't correct him. Let him think it was simple. I spent every spare moment planning the second location. The property needed significant work. I met with contractors. I designed the layout. I studied successful fast casual restaurants in other cities. My vision was clear. The second location would be an elevated version of Maple Street. Same quality, better atmosphere. A place where office workers could grab a quick lunch or young families could have affordable dinner. I secured investors by approaching local business owners I'd gotten to know through the diner. I presented my plan professionally, showing them my success at Maple Street, projecting realistic growth. 3 of them invested $50,000 total. With that and my loan, I had enough to begin renovations. But I was careful. Every document went through my shell company. Every meeting happened away from the diner. Julian knew nothing. One evening, my mother called. "Julian says you're still waitressing," she said, disappointment clear in her voice. "That's right," I said. "Olivia, when are you going to do something meaningful?" I swallowed the anger. "Soon, Mom, soon." The investor meetings taught me something important. When I presented my plans, dressed professionally, speaking confidently about market analysis and revenue projections, people took me seriously. The same people who might dismiss a waitress listened intently to a business owner. I learned to separate Olivia, the diner employee, from Olivia, the entrepreneur. One was visible, underestimated. The other was invisible, powerful. My financial position improved rapidly. Maple Street was generating steady profit. I paid myself a modest salary as owner on top of my wages as an employee. I moved to a better apartment, nothing flashy but mine. I bought professional clothes for meetings. I invested in a good laptop. Julian noticed the apartment. He showed up unannounced one Saturday. "Moving up in the world," he said, looking around. "How can you afford this on a waitress salary?" "I save," I said simply, "and I got a roommate." That was a lie, but he believed it. "Still," he said, "you should really consider a real career. I could help you get an entry-level position somewhere." "I'm happy where I am," I said firmly. He shrugged. "Your funeral." The first crisis came from an unexpected place. Our food supplier, the one I'd renegotiated with, suddenly tried to double their prices. When I called to question it, the sales rep was dismissive. "Take it or leave it," he said. "We've got plenty of other clients." I could have panicked. Instead, I spent 2 days researching alternative suppliers. I found one with better prices and higher quality. I negotiated a contract. Then I called the original supplier back. Switching to Riverside Foods, I said calmly. Thank you for your service. There was a pause. Wait, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You tried to take advantage and I found a better option. We could match their price, he said quickly. Maybe even beat it. Too late, I said. I've already signed. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but I'd done it. I'd faced down someone trying to cheat me and won. Marcus witnessed the whole thing. Henderson would have just paid, he said. Henderson isn't running things anymore, I replied. That evening, Julian texted. Dinner tomorrow. I stared at the message. Tomorrow was inspection day for the second location. Can't, busy waitressing, something like that. Rumors started circulating about a new restaurant opening near the office complex. I heard customers at Maple Street talking about it. Supposed to be really nice, one regular said. Fast casual concept, finally something decent in this neighborhood. I smiled as I refilled her coffee. If only she knew. Julian heard the rumors too. He mentioned it during one of his visits. Some investor is opening a restaurant on 7th Street, he said. Smart move with all those offices nearby. Whoever it is knows what they're doing. Sounds promising, I said neutrally. Must take real money to start something like that, he continued. Real business sense, not like this place. He gestured around the diner. I bit my tongue. The second location was taking shape. The contractor had finished the structural work. The kitchen equipment was being installed. I'd hired a designer to create cohesive branding across both locations. I was building something real, something Julian couldn't even imagine. But I wasn't ready to reveal it yet. The timing had to be perfect. I wanted everything in place, both locations thriving, undeniable proof of my success. Only then would I let him know. Competition arrived in an unexpected form. A corporate chain announced plans to open 2 blocks from Maple Street. They had money, marketing, and brand recognition. Several regulars mentioned they might try the new place. Marcus was worried. Chain restaurants kill small diners, he said. We can't compete with their prices. I disagreed. We compete on quality and community. They're generic, we're personal. I doubled down on what made us special. I learned customer names. I remembered their orders. I created a regulars special where longtime customers got discounts. I started a community board where people could post local events. I focused on what chains couldn't replicate, the personal touch. When the chain opened, we did lose some business, but not as much as Marcus feared, and many customers came back after trying the chain. Your food is just better, Mrs. Patterson said. That place is sterile. This feels like home. The challenge made us stronger. It forced me to define what made us different. That lesson would serve me well at the second location. The shift in perception happened gradually. Some local business owners started treating me differently. They'd see me at the diner and stop to chat about business. They didn't know I was the owner yet, but they sensed something had changed. You run this place well, one said. Henderson was lucky to have you. Thank you, I said carefully. Julian noticed too. He came in with a colleague one day. I overheard them talking. Your sister works here, the colleague said. Yeah, Julian replied. She's been here forever. People are saying this place has really improved lately. New owner, right? Julian paused. I think so, not sure. After they left, I saw Julian's face, confusion, a tiny bit of uncertainty. He was starting to realize he might not know everything about my life. That night, my mother called. Mrs. Chen from church said she saw you at some business meeting last month. What was that about? My heart raced. I'd been spotted. Just learning about small business, I said vaguely. Trying to improve myself. Well, don't get ideas above your station, she said. Some people just aren't meant for that world. I hung up, furious and more determined than ever. I had a breakthrough one evening sitting alone in the new location as contractors finished up. I was exhausted. My body ached from double shifts. My brain hurt from making 1,000 decisions. But as I looked around the nearly completed space, something clicked. This wasn't about Julian anymore. Yes, his mockery had fueled my initial fire. Yes, I wanted him to see what I'd built. But that wasn't the point. The point was me. I discovered I was good at this. I loved the challenge of building something from nothing. I loved creating spaces where people felt welcome. I loved problem solving, the creativity, the satisfaction of seeing my vision become reality. Julian's eventual shock would be satisfying, but it was secondary. Primary was the pride I felt in myself. I'd gone from being my family's disappointment to being someone I deeply respected. That night, I drafted a new mission statement for my company. Creating spaces where everyone belongs. Simple, true, Mine. I felt lighter than I had in months. This journey had transformed me in ways I hadn't expected. Julian's attempt at sabotage was almost comical. He showed up at the diner with 2 friends, talking loudly about how he had connections and knew people who were involved with the new restaurant on 7th Street. "I've got insider information," he announced to his friends, making sure I could hear. "Going to be a major player in this neighborhood." I came over to take their order, trying not to smile. "What insider information?" I asked innocently. Julian leaned back, enjoying the attention. "Let's just say I know people who know the owner. Very impressive operation, professional, not like these small-time places." "Sounds like you're a fan," I said. "I appreciate quality," he replied. "When you're in real business, you recognize it." His friends nodded, impressed. I took their order and walked away. Marcus caught my eye from the kitchen, grinning. The irony was perfect. Julian was praising my work without knowing it. His insider information was completely wrong, and his attempt to make me feel small by comparison had backfired spectacularly. When local bloggers started writing about the upcoming opening, mentioning the mysterious owner, Julian ate it up. He shared articles on social media, commenting about real entrepreneurship. I started selectively revealing my ownership to key people. The investors obviously knew, but now I told certain influential community members. I invited the head of the Chamber of Commerce to tour the new location before opening. "This is yours," she said, clearly surprised. "Both locations," I confirmed. "I've been building this for a year." She was impressed. She promised to feature both restaurants in the Chamber newsletter. I told my landlord at Maple Street. His reaction was priceless. "You've been the owner this whole time, but you're always here serving." "I believe in hands-on management," I said. Word spread slowly through business circles, but not to Julian. The separation between his world and mine was complete. He never attended chamber events. He didn't read local business news. He was so focused on his corporate job that he missed what was happening right under his nose. I told Mrs. Patterson, too. She deserved to know. "Oh, honey," she said, tears in her eyes, "I'm so proud of you." "Thank you," I said, "and thank you for being a loyal customer." "Always," she said, then with a mischievous smile, "Does Julian know?" "Not yet," she laughed. "Oh, I cannot wait." Julian's suspicion grew. He noticed that I was busier, often unavailable when he called. He saw that I'd upgraded my car, nothing fancy but newer than my old beater. "Where's all this money coming from?" he asked directly. "I've been saving," I said, "and I got promoted to manager." That part was technically true. I'd promoted myself. "Manager of a diner," he said dismissively. "That's your big achievement." "It's a start," I replied. He didn't know how true that was. The second location was days from opening. I'd hired staff, ordered supplies, planned a soft opening for friends and family. The real grand opening would be 2 weeks later with press coverage and community leaders invited. Everything was ready. I'd even hired a photographer to document the grand opening. This would be my moment, but I still wasn't ready for Julian to know. I wanted him to discover it naturally, to walk in unprepared. I wanted that moment of shock, realization, the crumbling of every assumption he'd ever made about me. The anticipation was delicious. Julian showed up at the diner on a Friday, agitated. "I need to talk to you," he said. We went to the back office, my office, though he didn't know it. "Mom and Dad are having their anniversary party next month," he said. "They want to have it at that new restaurant on 7th Street, the one that's opening." My heart stopped. "What?" "Yeah, they heard it's supposed to be nice. They asked me to check it out, maybe book it." He looked at me expectantly. "Isn't that something?" "That's definitely something," I managed. "Anyway, I need a favor. Can you find out who owns it? Use your restaurant connections or whatever. I want to make sure it's legitimate before I recommend it to Mom and Dad." I stared at him. The irony was overwhelming. "I'll see what I can do," I said slowly. "Great, appreciate it, Liv." After he left, I sat in stunned silence. Then I started laughing. I laughed until tears ran down my face. My parents wanted to have their party at my restaurant. Julian wanted me to investigate myself. The universe had just handed me the perfect setup for the perfect reveal. Marcus found me still laughing. "You okay?" "Better than okay," I said. "Everything just got very interesting." The soft opening exceeded my expectations. Friends, investors, and select community members filled the restaurant. The food was perfect. The service was smooth. The atmosphere was exactly what I'd envisioned. Warm, modern, welcome, people raved about everything. The menu, The design, the attention to detail. I moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, feeling pride swell in my chest. "This is incredible," one investor said. "You're going to be very successful." I believed him. The space I'd imagined for months was real, full of people enjoying something I'd created. Local food bloggers posted photos. The Chamber of Commerce president gave a short speech. A reporter from the neighborhood paper interviewed me. "What inspired this venture?" she asked. I thought about Julian's mocking face, about my parents' disappointment, about every time someone underestimated me. "I wanted to create a place where everyone feels valued," I said. "Where quality food and genuine service come together, where community matters. And you're the sole owner." "I am." "That's impressive for someone so young. Age doesn't matter if you're willing to work hard," I replied. The article would run the following week, right before the grand opening, right before Julian discovered the truth. Grand opening day arrived. I was a mess of nerves and excitement. I'd invited everyone. Local officials, business owners, food critics, press. I'd even sent an invitation to my parents, though they hadn't responded. The restaurant looked perfect. Flowers at each table, soft music playing, staff in crisp uniforms, ready and trained. I wore a dress I'd bought specifically for today, professional but approachable. I looked like what I was, a successful business owner. The doors opened at noon. People streamed in. Photographers snapped pictures. A local news crew set up in the corner. At 12:30, I was greeting guests when I saw him. Julian walking through the door, stopping dead when he saw the crowd, the press, the celebration. His eyes scanned the room, confused. Then they landed on me, our eyes met. His face went white. I watched the realization hit him in stages. Recognition, confusion, shock, understanding, horror. I smiled and walked toward him. "Julian," I said calmly. "Welcome, I'm so glad you could make it." His mouth opened, closed, it opened again. "You," he finally managed. "This is yours." "Both locations," I said. "Didn't you know?" Around us, people had started to notice. The owner's brother had arrived. Julian's world unraveled in real time. His face cycled through emotions, shock, denial, anger, embarrassment. People were watching, whispering. He'd been so public about his contempt for my diner work. He'd shared articles about the mysterious owner without knowing it was me. He'd mocked me that morning, seen me in my uniform, and assumed I was still just a waitress. "How long?" he asked, his voice tight. "I bought Maple Street a year ago," I said. "I've been building this for 8 months." "And you never told me." "You never asked," I replied. "You were too busy telling me I had no ambition." His girlfriend, Stephanie, appeared at his side. She looked at me with something like awe. "You own this?" she asked. "I do. Julian said you were just a waitress." I turned to my brother. "I am a waitress and a cook and a manager and an owner. Turns out I can be more than one thing." Across the room, my parents had just arrived. They froze when they saw Julian's face, then followed his gaze to me. The shock on their faces mirrored his. The food critic approached, wanting an interview. "Excuse me," I said to Julian. "I have work to do." I walked away, leaving him standing there, everything he thought he knew about me shattered. The aftermath was complicated. Julian disappeared from the opening. Stephanie stayed, apologizing for him, congratulating me genuinely. My parents cornered me later, bewildered. "Why didn't you tell us?" my mother asked. "Would you have believed me?" I replied. They had no answer. The grand opening was a massive success. We served 200 people. The press coverage was glowing. Within a week, we had reservations booked solid for a month. Julian called 3 days later. "Can we talk?" We met at Maple Street, closing time, just us. "I was wrong," he said. The words clearly cost him. "I underestimated you badly." "Yes, you did," I said. "I'm sorry." I studied with him. The apology seemed genuine, but years of hurt don't heal instantly. "Thank you," I said. "But Julian, this isn't about you anymore. This is about me building something I'm proud of. Your opinion doesn't define me." He nodded slowly. "I can see that." We talked for an hour. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. As I locked up that night, I felt at peace. I'd proven something, not just to Julian, but to myself. Hard work matters. Vision matters. And sometimes, the people who underestimate you give you the greatest gift. They fuel the fire that transforms you into someone even better than you imagined. What would you do in this situation? If you loved this story of patience, determination, and sweet victory, hit that subscribe button. More stories of people who turned their pain into power are coming your way.